We are live. What's up? So it is the season. Happy Halloween. This weekend is Halloween. It's very exciting. So Thanksgiving's my favorite, but I love Halloween. I come from a long line of haunters. So I'm going to talk today about building your haunted maze. Some of you already know this about me, but I come from a very long generations, in fact, of people who build spook houses and haunted things. And we celebrate. We do this Halloween thing. My grandfather he actually built a slide. This would be like in the whatever 30s or 40s, I guess. Yeah, it'd be like the 30s. And he would let kids, you look at this now, you would climb up to the roof of the 2-story house on a ladder. And then he actually had a drop that he built, like a chute. So you climb onto the roof, and then the kids could shoot down the like a slide he custom built himself. And so the kids would just slide from the top of the roof down, and I don't know, come out into the living room or something, like, "Hey, Dad, nice to see you." So yeah, so that was my grandfather, and so he had 4 kids, and they had all their friends would come over and climb up the ladder and go down the chute. Halloween time. And so my father built, I was a carny like for reals. I have all my teeth though. So my father built spook houses as a kid, hooked him up to the family station wagon or RV, depending on the year. And my mother had her teaching degree, so she was homeschooling. She was carnival schooling. So she would teach us, and we would go out on the road. And I actually went to a regular school. I think my brothers, I'm not sure, I'm the youngest. So, but when they started to get a little too old for her to be able to do it, she's an elementary school teacher. But we did that till I was about 7 or 8 years old. And so he would hook up Frankenstein's Laboratory, Creature of the Black Lagoon. There was a bunch. The Disconnected Lady, I think, was my favorite, which is her head was on one end and her body was on the other end of the room, and you could talk to her. She'd say hello. She'd wave. So, stuff like that. And so I grew up around it. So I don't have the same effect on a house as, I still can get spooked and jumped and whatever, but more I'm like, oh, like, I don't know. It's just it's a different world when you grow up with it and you're in this world. And so those of you who have, people that do this. And so some people just do it big on their lawn, right? You have neighbors like that. I'm sure we all have these neighbors, I think. And so we actually didn't do that because we were for real. We actually made money. It was like he supported his family doing this. And so, and then well into his 70s, he would dress up like a cat and sing karaoke songs on the fairgrounds. So very creative man. And so this was, in my blood. And then years later, like not that long ago, whatever, years back, I just started working in a nonprofit during the Halloween season, and they decided they wanted to do a little haunt. So my son was younger at the time, and he was like, "Oh, this would be fun." So we started this little haunt, like literally like a couple of rooms in an old store space kind of thing. And then it started to get really popular. And so my brother, we just called, my brothers would come up and their sons, and we would just start building haunts. My dad flew out he was in his 90s at the time, and he'd fly out from New York and, visit, whatever. But we started doing what started as a nonprofit, just, for fun kind of thing, and grew into a commercial haunt where it was a nonprofit still, which is awesome. So we called it BOO, Building Occupational Opportunities. And we would show people how to literally build things. And that was part of the haunt. And it was awesome. It actually helped people because we trusted people and we gave them jobs and kind of helped people get back on their feet. It was amazing. And then meanwhile, we did it by building a haunted house. And so it would run for the whole month of October, and a little bit sometimes even into September, and clip on over to November, because you just can't get enough of Halloween. But in doing this was such a huge, huge lesson. I learned so much from building this, kind of my first parlay, because it got so big that we actually branched off, started our own nonprofit. Kind of my first experience of actually, I run my own business as a reader, but it's a little different because you're self-employed. And so this was like building a business, like it was, a monster business, as we say. It was really so many amazing lessons on how to do this, but 2 of the main lessons, and I just told the story on Instagram, so if you're over there, you saw it there, but one really main lesson, it was amazing. And Doug was there, as always. He's always like, "I got an idea." He's like, "I'm in." So So that's basically our relationship. One of us going, I got an idea, and the other one going, I mean, we don't even know what it is. We built this haunt, and it started as a maze. It was amazing, and but it had like little scenes and whatever, and it was all illusion. It was the same tricks. The disconnected lady, we actually did that same illusion. We didn't. It was a little boy when we did it, and the gorilla. Oh no, wait, that's a different one. We have the boy who turns into a gorilla, and we did those old signs up front because we knew this world, right? So we really just harkened back to the 70s, 80s, like, those old school haunts. And so it was all illusion, and there was no blood or guts or no chainsaws, no iconic characters. Like, we didn't have people that you'd recognize or whatever. So we just created our own boo crew. Like, we just made it all up. So we were building this maze, which was part of some of the scenes. It was that kind of way to kind of get people going. We didn't put much stock into it, but it was a nonprofit, so we got things donated. And so one year, this museum donated their space, but then right before, a couple days before, they were like, "Oh shoot, we double booked. Oops! So you need to go on the lawn." And we were like, "What?" So we got volunteers, and we built half the haunt on the lawn, and the maze was part of it. And we couldn't get the maze to work because there was a gigantic tree in the way. This is life, right? It's that, and this is the lesson of it, is it's such a beautiful reflection of life. Just when you think you got to figure it out, this tree comes in, like, or something comes in to go, like, not so fast. Here's an obstacle for you. Sometimes we create those obstacles all on our own. We don't even need the tree. But we were really frustrated because we couldn't get we were like, it's supposed to be a maze like this, like all symmetrical, but it wouldn't work. So finally, it was like the day we were opening, people are lining up literally outside to come in, and we were like, what are we going to do? Like, we're like, whatever, we'll just let them go through it and they'll get lost. It was really a short little thing, but it was dark. It was still dark and scary and monsters and all that. So people got in there and they couldn't figure out, like, and we gave them no guidance. So they just got in there, and like, there was you couldn't even tell which way you were supposed to go. And so some of them right away would be like, where are we supposed to go? And we'd be like, I don't know. We just shove them back in again. But some people would stay in that little section and get so confused and turned around that they come back out the front door. And so it became this like really hilarious joke, right? And so people are waiting in line, and they see people go in, and then they see a few minutes later they come back out again, like, and we'd be like, no, this isn't the exit. Get back in there. And they'd be like, what? Which way do we go? We'd be like, I don't know. Get in there. And it became so much fun that people, like, word spread. People wanted to come get lost. And so we doubled down. It was a motel theme. So we doubled down and said, check in, then get lost. And we thought that was hilarious. And so they did. People started coming and getting more and more lost. And so we ended up double downing on that and making that our thing. So we still did the scenes, but they were far more within. It was all a maze. We turned the whole thing into a maze with scenes inside. And so we have a handout today that's sort of similar to what we did. And so the handout is at hollywoodgatekeepers.com/free look. And you can download a little maze. But the reason that we're doing the maze is just for fun, really. It's not, you'll see. It's very childish. But kind of the lessons about that were, well, a couple things. One, let go of your outcomes, because we thought it needed to be like this. And when we let go, holy smokes, so much better than anything we could have thought of. And if you let go, you have a goal, right? And you know where you want to head. You want to be a reader. You know you want to be a reader, but let go that you want to be a, let go of that and open yourself up to what else might it be. I didn't know being a reader would lead to Hollywood Gatekeepers. And we are having so much fun with Hollywood Gatekeepers and Hollywood Screen Readers and everything that we're doing and finished and all of that. And it's about kind of relaxing and being like, well, I don't know, maybe we'll try this or maybe we'll try that. It doesn't, you want a path. You go through your maze and you figure out your path, but don't be so keyed into the outcome that it's got to be that way. And then the second thing that we noticed that was so amazing is that how much fun people had getting lost. They loved that aspect of it. And that became the big thing. That was what press happened and covered. And, we were on NBC's First Look. They featured us. There was just so much going on with that idea of just getting lost. And we started creating characters, and we created Mabel, a little girl, and she scared everybody. Because again, just like we do with Hollywood Gatekeepers, we polled people and said at the end of the season, what scared you the most? And it was the little girl. So we doubled down on that. Like, we didn't say it's going to be this and it has to be that. We try something and then we poll people. We literally ask them on the way out, what was your favorite part? What didn't you like? What did, as they walk out, we talk to them. I stood at the gate with Doug and we would stand there and we talk to people as they walk in and be like, so, what do you think? And people often came back for more than one time. So we get feedback and then we do whatever they like. It's not that hard. So it's about like really listening to people and really not being so married to that it has to be your way, not writing your one screenplay and clinging to that and being like, I'm not writing anything else until anybody pays me, because then you're not a writer. I don't know what that is even. I don't know what the word is for that other than chopping up your nose to spite your face. It is like, if you're a writer, you write. You have more than one screenplay. You have a body of work. When people ask you and you bring your screenplay, they're going to say, what else do you have? They want to know that you're a writer. So when you're, let go of that outcome and just be that thing that you want to be, already start. If you're a writer, tell people you're a writer. Step into it. Enjoy the journey along the way. And that was what we noticed is people loved getting lost because they trusted that the journey, they would get out. They knew we weren't going to, we'd say, see you Tuesday, whenever they would go in, whatever. We would joke like they're never coming out. Of course they're coming out. But and people would laugh. They loved that. So it's that idea of, because they trusted. Why can't we do that in our lives? Why can't we trust in that same way? Why can't we step into the maze of life and be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get some jump scares and they're gonna really mess me up. Like I'm gonna walk there and there's times I'm not gonna know which way to go. And there's times where someone's gonna be like, oh, no, I don't want to be over you. And there's sometimes it's gonna be fascinating. And you're gonna be like, whoa, what happened there? And there's sometimes it'll just be like, oh wow, this is cool. There's all these levels. And the haunted maze, like I never really thought about how much it really represents so much of our life in general. The haunted maze of like going through and processing different things, but always trusting that you're gonna come out the other side and be okay. Even when you go through trauma. Going through trauma sucks. It's awful, right? But you develop these like insane muscles when you recover from something. And so being able to go through your maze, and you'll see when you get the handout, we've added the top of our resource page. So you'll see when you go to HollywoodGatekeepers.com/free look. I can put that up actually. When you go to that, you'll see that, good morning, Warrior Maid Mina. That's a cool name. You'll see the handout. You'll see that we've started to put at the top of the page each week's handout. So you'll see today's handout, and then you'll see last week's handout and video. And so next week, you'll see this video with the handout from today and the handout for whatever it is next week. So as you look at this maze, you'll see that it has in there things to remind you to enjoy in your maze of life, like to stop and smell the roses, literally, that's in there, to breathe, to play a sport, to go to the movies, to play with a pet. It also has process emotion. Take time to actually get angry or cry or whatever it might be, to let go of some of the things that you've experienced in your life that hold you back. Take time to process that trauma and really look at any traumas that you've been through and allow them to be and process the emotion from them and see what you've learned from that, because that's how you'll step into whatever it is that you want to be, because that's the end game. And that's like, you go through the maze, you enjoy the journey, you stop and take time for certain things, and you'll see that in this little handout that we have. And it's more just to remind, some actual coloring thing. Like if you want to color, you can color. It's an actual thing. But it's more just kind of a visual to remind you of, it's got a little key about all the things that we should be reminding ourselves of this life. And so I know, what does this have to do with reading? It has everything to do with reading, because it has to do with the same things like I talked about in terms of really double downing on the things that you want, learning that lesson like we learned about the maze, and we doubled down when we realized, oh, this really works. I'm going to do this, and then being open to what is the next turn. Okay, we're going to do this. And actually, believe it or not, and I didn't even tell this story, but this whole haunted maze thing led to Hollywood Gatekeepers. What? It did. Because as we were doing this haunted maze, it was like, wow, we got to get people to come to this thing. How do you do that? Well, you go on Facebook or something. Like I had no idea. So I started learning online marketing and going like, okay, how do I get people to come to the haunt? This was just like a fun thing we were doing. It wasn't, we put a lot of time and effort into it, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of an offshoot. Like, I don't know, it's just this time that we wanted to get together. It was so fun to work with family and everything. So it was like, how do you market this thing? So I started looking online to how do you market? And I found Evan Pagan, who is my mentor, and learned how to market from Evan Pagan, how to market the haunt. And in that, I learned about this whole online business thing. And it was like, wow. And then during that, we kind of also were working on another project, and we got a coverage back, and we were kind of like, the coverage was really good. And we were kind of going, wow, this coverage is written really well. And then kind of joking, yeah, because no one teaches people how to do it. And at the time, we actually had a business, how to build a monster business online, like teaching people how to do haunted houses. I have a lot of tips. If you need any tips about haunted houses, I'm your gal. So we were starting to do that, and then realized, wow, we could do this. This is my love, my passion, my thing. Like, this is what we could do. So if I hadn't done the haunt, I mean, maybe would have come across it. I don't know. But it led to Hollywood Gatekeepers, to us creating that, to like really kind of figure it out. It's like, yeah, it is, right? The idea of getting lost and just being okay with it. Like, it's okay. And there's times I call it, we joke in screeners, we call it caterpillar soup, where, you know, a caterpillar like goes into the chrysalis and the cocoon, and it ingests itself. Okay, like it like goes into like goo, and it's like not pretty. It is a haunted house in there. Like it like ingests itself, and then it rebuilds and comes out as a butterfly. Greatest image ever, right? So the haunted house inside comes out as a beautiful butterfly. And I often joke that I'm in caterpillar soup. Like, you have these moments and these times in your life when you're in transition, and it's not easy, and it can have so many different emotions and fear and all of that. If you can do your best, even though sometimes it's really hard, to trust that whatever comes out of that might not be what you said it was going to be. You might have joined Hollywood Gatekeepers because you were absolutely sure you were going to do this thing. And it's been interesting. I've seen so many people go through the program, and they come out doing something totally different than what they thought they were going to do when they came in, and they're loving it. So it's like trusting that process, because we guide you through within the courses that we have. We guide you through like really getting to know yourself, because knowing yourself is the first step into really understanding what it is that you want to do, by knowing who you are and what you love and what you want. And so by figuring that out, and then relaxing and allowing the different things to come in, and kind of figuring out what was like, you know, what was going through all of this for. Why does this all matter? Right? Yeah. Yeah, we were surprised about that coverage. And the haunt was constantly packed. It was always like, and it was funny because people would be like, you know, people that were not in the world, you know, would come by, friends or whatever, that would just come by to bring me dinner. They'd be like, you got to get this line in. And I'm like, well, I know it goes around the block. I know there's an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour wait, but no one's forcing them to be here. To them, it's worth it. And it was amazing. And it was worth it. And it was so much fun. And it was just so, it's so eye-opening in terms of those lessons about scaring people, and how the cool thing about being scared is you do get to process emotion, which is so important. And I think sometimes we don't do that. So we do scary movies, and we do movies that make us cry, and we do our job as a writer is kind of to help people do that, right? We want to process emotion. You want to get that across. So if you can write a story that really moves people, like it helps them in their life. Whether you're doing a romantic comedy or whatever, like a romantic comedy that really makes people laugh, or why do you think people watch these movies over and over? Why are there so many top 10 lists of top 10 romantic comedies and top 10? Because these are the films that move us. They don't necessarily have to be, I mean, it's great when they are these like really emotional, you know, important films. Sometimes it's The Hangover, you know, sometimes it's a film that we need that release. We're trying to release that emotion. We want to laugh, we want to think, we want to cry. And our job as readers is to help get that story so that it's told. So it gets told and people can experience this. Our jobs as writers, we are the job providers. If it weren't for the writer, nothing would happen. And we're able to move people through emotion and allow them to process that. And how lucky are we, right? It's so cool. So enjoy your haunted maze map. Process those emotions, relax about the outcome, and just enjoy the haunted maze journey. It's a really fun ride. We'll see you next week.